Good evening, and thank you for coming to the candidate forum. Thank you, candidates and audience. What a great turnout, overflow crowd. And there are people watching online as well. Tonight's candidate forum is for City Councilor Districts 1 and 2. My name is Judy Williams, and I'll be the moderator. On behalf of the League of Women Voters of Santa Fe County, we want to thank the New Mexican for broadcasting our candidate forums this year as a service to the community. The New Mexicans' no strings attached support over the years has allowed us to provide nonpartisan, authoritative election information to Santa Fe County voters by publishing our voter guide and now by live streaming our candidate forums. Several people from the New Mexican are here tonight, but I would like to ask the publisher, Patrick Dorsey, to come up and make a few remarks.
Thank you, Judy, and welcome everyone, and good evening. So I'm Patrick Dorsey, publisher of the Santa Fe New Mexican, and on behalf of our entire company, we're proud to be part of these candidate forums and appreciate you taking the time to watch either here at Santa Fe Prep School or online at santafenewmexican.com. Newspaper readers are some of the most engaged citizens in a community and reliable voters, critical to a healthy civic environment. Recent surveys have shown newspaper readers voted significantly higher rates than the general public. And at the New Mexican, fully 96% of readers identify themselves as regular voters. That's very impressive. I also know that they are informed voters, reflecting on the excellent coverage in recent days about the coming elections and the profiles of the candidates. So hopefully you guys have read them along with me, because there's a lot of great information in there. And I've only been here 6 months, so it was very helpful to me. As we look towards Election Day in November, we also look towards the start of our year-long celebration of the New Mexican's 175th anniversary and the legacies we've built bringing the news to people by telegraph, printing press, website, mobile phone, podcast, and an ever-growing suite of new technologies over all these years, keeping Santa Fe citizens up to date on the news and all things important to our community for 175 years. Another amazing statistic. In whatever form you interact with us, the Santa Fe New Mexican helps bolster community ties and gives us a common pool of facts from which to understand shared challenges and opportunities. This provides us a foundation for civil public discourse and the means to address our needs. I invite you to follow the developments in these races in the pages of the Santa Fe New Mexican and on santafenewmexican.com. Thank you to our host tonight, Santa Fe Prep School, for hosting us, and to the League of Women Voters, who put together all the hard work, put together this forum. This is great for the community. Henry, they're already not listening to you. Also, thanks to all of you, people here in person and also online, for dedicating their time to learn more about the candidates and for planning to vote on November 7th. Very important. Finally, to those who said, "Count me in," and decided to stand for election, the candidates, please accept our thanks for taking part in our public life. If you win this November, it might be the last public thanks you get for a while. In all seriousness, thanks for stepping up, as we need engaged citizens willing to get involved in the body politic and better Santa Fe for all of us. Good luck tonight. Thank you, everyone.
I've been told that several vehicles parked in the circle outside in front of the building. That is reserved for emergency vehicles only. So if anyone has parked in that zone, please move your car now. Thank you. We don't want to have any trouble. The League of Women Voters promotes civil discourse through action and education with all government bodies, staff, and citizens for the purpose of good public policy decisions and processes. Civil discourse means, at a minimum, mutually respectful, courteous, constructive, and orderly communication. The Santa Fe City Council is the city's legislative body. It's responsible for adopting the city budget, levying taxes, and making or amending city laws, policies, and ordinances. Each of the 4 city council districts elects 2 city councilors to staggered 4-year terms. Candidates must be registered voters and live in the district in which they're running. I'm asking you to save your applause until the end of the forum, and at which time you can show your appreciation for the candidates. It saves a lot of time. Thank you. Now I'll introduce the candidates. Starting on the left of the table are District 1 candidates Gino Zamora, Catherine Rivera, Alma Castro, Brian Gutierrez, and District 2 candidates Philip Lucero and Michael Garcia. The candidates have all agreed to follow the lead protocols for candidate forums, including respecting the time limits for responses and practicing civil discourse even when they disagree about issues. We'll begin with 2-minute opening statements from the candidates and then ask them a series of questions submitted by you, the audience. The candidates will ask the questions in rotating order, as many questions as we have time for. Finally, we'll conclude with 2-minute closing statements from the candidates in reverse order from their opening statements. If you haven't already submitted your questions, you can email them to santafenewmexican.com/elections now or at any time during the forum. For those of you who are here in person, you can submit your questions on the 3x5 note cards that are being passed around. And when you finish the card, wave it in the air, and somebody will come and pick it up. Feel free to submit questions at any time during the forum. The questions we ask tonight will be selected by our screening panel to focus on the issues that seem to generate the most interest. Questions directed to one specific candidate or that contain a personal attack will not be asked. I will be giving candidates a time limit of 2 minutes or less for their answers, and they have agreed to respect those limits. First, we'll hear from candidate Michael Garcia.
Well, good evening, everybody. Thank you to the League of Women Voters. Thank you to everybody that's present, standing room only. Thank you for the great interest in this, and thank you to everybody online. First, I want to give you a little bit of information about myself. Born and raised here in Santa Fe, or as we like to say, born here all my life. I was raised in the Belma area, went to Kearney, went to DeVargas, went to Santa Fe High, class of 1997, and then ultimately went on to UNM for an undergraduate degree in political science, and then a master's degree in public administration. Public service and serving others has always been a passion of mine. It's been something that was instilled in me as a young age, and that's why I ultimately went into public administration. I thought I was going to be a policymaker on the other side of the fence. I thought I was going to be the person in the books, making the policy, handing it off to somebody else, and so that's what led me down that path. Right after undergrad, I joined National Service, AmeriCorps Vista Service, and that actually led me down a completely different career trajectory in regards to serving my community and serving others. It allowed me to really work with folks to really understand community needs and really work towards working sustainable community solutions. I had that opportunity not only to work locally on those issues, but regionally, statewide, as well as nationally. I work currently for the federal government for a smaller agency called AmeriCorps. So through that work, I've had the opportunity to work, as I mentioned, locally as well as on the national level, developing policy that impacts those in need across our country every day. I hope that you can learn a little bit more about my vision for a second term. I'm running for re-election. I want to continue to represent you at this District 2 residents, but also everybody in the city. I think ultimately we're elected for a district, but I want to represent everybody and make sure everybody's voice is heard at City Hall. So thank you for showing up again, and I look forward to the questions tonight.
Mr. Lucero.
Good evening. Thank you to the League of Women Voters for hosting tonight. It's great to be here. My name is Phil Lucero, and I'm running for City Council in District 2. I was born and raised here, and I live 2 blocks from my parents, the house I grew up in, so I didn't make it very far. To be honest, I've never in my wildest dreams thought I would be here today as a City Council candidate, but here I am. I am not a politician. Let me tell you what I am. I am an educator, a family man. I am someone who cares deeply about the people in my city, and I also serve on the Planning Commission. I think the first job of a city councilor is to listen and learn from the public. I have my own ideas of what can and should happen, but I see this role as a servant to the public first and foremost. Ultimately, I'm running because I am impatient for progress. I run an international climate change education program, and I spend my days in classrooms talking with youth about our collective future in the face of this massive problem that we're all facing. We need to move quicker. Look, I don't see the urgency reflected at City Hall, the urgency that I feel. When I watch city council meetings, I see political theater, where councilors are quick to blame each other, they're quick to blame city staffers, and they lack actionable steps towards progress. I don't have all the answers, but I do have the wherewithal to know that finding solutions to our problems requires teamwork, collaboration, humility, and optimism. I bring that in spades. I am solutions-oriented, and I aim to walk out of every meeting knowing what I need to do to help move things forward. I am knocking on doors, and here's what I know are on the mind of voters: affordable housing, sustainability, and quality of life. I'm looking forward to the conversation on these issues, and I would appreciate your support. Thank you.
Mr. Gutierrez.
On day one at 828 Paseo de Peralta is where my life begun. Kindergarten at the young age of 5 made me start to feel alive. Ladegoite Elementary School, home of the Trotters, left lasting memories that I still tell my daughters. In junior high, I was an eagle. Alameda was my home, and by this time I started to roam. I lived what seemed so far away from Solana Center, where I had work at the end of the day. Delivering newspapers was such a chore. I had to make sure it was by the front door. Off to high school, it went in a flash. Good thing I delivered the papers so I could have some cash. Upon graduation from the class of 90, I felt so very mighty. Sunwest Bank, where I worked the summer, was always so much fun, never a bummer. I was set on my career path as a banker for life. The bank was bought out and I was left in strife. My life would change, you couldn't believe. I wanted to just stay home and basket weave. Now on to the serious part. I had to figure out what I wanted in my heart. Working for myself always was a dream. It wasn't so hard, or so it would seem. Some days it's 14 hours, not much time to stop and smell the flowers. My beautiful wife is named Denise, and when I'm with her, I feel inner peace. Children, we have 4. That's enough. I don't think I can handle anymore. My children have asked me why I do what I do. I tell them it's not for me, but for you. Someday I hope their memories of this city are as vivid as mine and without pity. These times are a-changing. There is no doubt you can count on me to help figure them out. To work hard, I've never been ashamed. I've always hit for what I've aimed. Decisions, whether easy or hard to make, you can count on me not to be a flake. I will always do what I feel is right. I'm not running to seek the spotlight. I want to thank the League of Women Voters, Santa Fe New Mexican, veterans, and of course, first responders for everything you do for our beautiful city.
Ms. Castro.
Hello, thank you everyone for being here. Sorry, we have a little feedback, I think. Thank you to the League of Women Voters, and thank you all joining us online and in person. My name is Alma Castro. I am a Santa Fecina, a Santa Fean, born here all my life as well, like most of us on this panel, which makes me really happy to see a group of Nuevo Mexicanos getting ready to take leadership. I'm 35 years old. I am a young business owner. I recently moved back from Chicago with my husband to take over my parents' 30-year business, and I saw a lot of changes in my community that I wasn't too excited about. So as much as it was difficult for me to make the decision to put some of my own personal ideas on hold, I was hoping to be a music teacher in the future, and I still will be one day. I think it's really important that we're civically engaged and that we have people in our community that we can trust and a city government that we can believe in. And those are the platforms that I'm trying to run on. So I really hope that my vision for Santa Fe, my time in AmeriCorps and in Rotary, and my time as Camp Rising Sun Leadership Fellow, and my time at Oberlin College really prepared me for what it is to be a leader in this community. There was something that we called a sachem, which means a servant leader. And that to me is really my role. I'm very nervous. I'm a little bit scared, but I'm ready to take on this role because I know that this is my community and I really want to be the servant leader that I was taught to be. My time in the Arts Commission did give me a little bit of pause. about how we're spending some of our money and where our city services are being neglected. So I hope that with your help and the help of the people that are experts in this at the city, that we can make these changes and bring unity and progress back to our city. Muchas gracias.
Ms. Rivera.
Good evening. I'm Catherine Rivera, and I'm really excited to be here. Santa Fe is my hometown. I was born and raised here, and I currently live on the same street that I grew up on, always in District 1. In my professional life, I have worked 33 years in a corporate environment for a Fortune 250 company. During that time, I have traveled the globe, traveled the US, and I have come back to Santa Fe, and I can confirm that Santa Fe is a nice place to live. But Santa Fe is not living up to its image, and it seems that Santa Fe has lost its way in many areas. This needs to be corrected. I would like to see Santa Fe refocus on the things that existing residents care about, things that are important to our quality of life in this beautiful city. It also seems to me that Santa Fe has been taken advantage of, and our streets are being overrun. This needs to be corrected before we lose the city completely. This is critical to the business climate in Santa Fe. And I also believe that Santa Fe should set the standard for all things history. I'm running for city council because I'm compelled to help the city. I believe my corporate experience, my multinational negotiations, and my global perspectives will help bring something new to the city council. Now more than ever, it's time for a change. I want to be your voice for that change, and I'm looking forward to participating here tonight. Thank you.
Finally, Mr. Zamora.
Good evening. Thank you all, and thank you to the League of Women Voters. My name is Gino Zamora, and I'm just a kid that was born in Old St. Vincent's when it was downtown. And I was brought home to my family in Casa Solana 54 years ago. And after that, I was raised in my family's small business, where my dad practiced law and my mom ran the business. And in that business, his clients were my friends. His exhibits were my toys, and his courtroom was my classroom. And what I learned in that classroom was that my father, with the help of my mom, had the ability to help people that could not help themselves. Now they grew up, they had hard scrabble lives. My dad served in World War II and used the GI Bill to get to Highlands University and then to Georgetown University Law School in DC. All from Mora, New Mexico, just a kid on a family farm. My mom traveled from Las Vegas, New Mexico to Oakland during summers in high school to work in a peach cannery to earn money for her family. Now, they worked hard and we had benefits. The kids, I'm the youngest of 5. It wasn't as hard for us growing up. So what did they ask us to do? They asked us to give back to our community. And that's how I've led my career, as Assistant Attorney General to Tom Udall, fighting illegal developers, as Chief Legal Counsel to Governor Bill Richardson, fighting for civil rights for everyone in our state, as City Attorney to Mayor David Koss, fighting for a living river. So I've tried to put in action the words of my mother and my father that we give back to our community. And in addition, we build a community where everyone belongs. Thank you.
Thank you all. Now we'll start with questions. These will probably most of these questions will be 2-minute question. I'm starting with Mr. Lucero. What are your top priorities if elected?
Are we starting with me? I
Yes.
didn't catch it. Okay.
No, we're starting. Oh. Yes, that's correct. Sorry.
Okay, thank you. Well, first of all, I love Santa Fe, as do you. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here. So I think we have that in common. I'm impatient for kind of the kind of progress that we need, and the elephant in the room is affordable housing. That's my #1 priority. It's the reason why I'm even doing this, and it's because people like me who grew up here, have deep roots here, aren't going to be able to find a place here going forward. I worry that my children won't be able to have the life that I had growing up because the affordability issue is, in my estimation, a public health crisis. We cannot allow our workforce to be pushed out of town. And I know this because I did commute from Albuquerque for 8 years. It's not sustainable for the environment. It's not sustainable for a person's quality of life. When I had kids, I figured out a way to get into a home here, and I'm so glad that I did when I did. Sustainability is the other big issue for me. Like I said, I'm an educator. I run an international climate change education program, so I'm in classrooms talking to young people about how they can engage with the problem at hand. How can they use their skill sets to address problems that they care about. And so that's kind of my role here, is my skill set. I don't know how to fix a car necessarily, but I know how to create community. And so that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to use my skill set for good. Last but not least, quality of life. I think anyone and everyone that is in this town deserves a high quality of life, and I'd work towards addressing that. That means, pools, that means fields, soccer, recreational centers. These are the things that I care about. And so I would work hard for Santa Feans to make sure that those types of things are addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia?
So I think this is where I've got a good opportunity, given that I'm the current city councilor. I can hit the ground sprinting because there's priorities I'm currently working on. Affordable housing and workforce housing is a must. And for example, one of the things I've worked on as a city councilor is working to access and use city land to develop affordable housing units. One of the successes I've had as a city councilor is to work towards donating 20 acres of city land so we can develop over 100 affordable homes. So those are the type of initiatives I want to create and take to this Midtown campus. Looking at redeveloping our fee and lieu of program. It's not working for our city. And so that's another priority, is to rework that initiative. Public safety. We need to ensure that our police officers have all the equipment necessary to keep our community members safe. So working towards ensuring that there are appropriate resources allocated to them in our budget is a priority of mine. Basic city services. This is something we need to do. I mean, this is an absolute must for our city. We need to get back to providing the basic services to our residents, and that's something that we've slipped on, unfortunately. Paving our roads, making sure our parks are clean, making sure we have enough lifeguards so folks can actually utilize our spaces. And I think that's something that we need to ensure that is a priority amongst all of these. It's not one priority over another. These are all major pressing issues that our community needs to focus on right now. And I think that is where I have that advantage, in the sense I'm working on these initiatives right now. I'm ready to continue them. I mean, I actually have legislation in our legal team's office working on some of these initiatives right now. So it's a priority of mine now. And then on top of that, working with you, seeing what your issues are, what your priorities are, because these issues change. They change day to day. And I want to ensure that as these issues are impacting you as the residents of our city, that your voice is heard.
Thank you. Mr. Zamora?
Knocking on doors throughout our city. These are the priorities I hear. Affordable housing, the jobs to make a mortgage payment, and a safe community to live in. When it comes to affordable housing, we are 4,000 to 5,000 housing units short in our community. And what does that mean? We don't have a stock of middle-class homes like we used to in Santa Fe. And we certainly don't have a stock of low-income homes. And so we really do need to focus on building out that inventory and providing those homes, because I'm frustrated. We're here at Santa Fe Prep. I'm on the board at St. Michael's High School. Our law firm represents Santa Fe Public Schools. Our greatest export are our high school graduates, because they leave to get their training, they leave to get their education, and they can't afford to come back. That needs to change. Secondarily, the jobs to afford to live here and pay a mortgage. We need to grow our small businesses. As former general counsel at the Economic Development Department, I know what state money is out there to grow our businesses, to recruit new businesses, to use tools like the Local Economic Development Act to grow our economy, and work with the education system, starting in high school, to train our kids to know what they need to do to gain those high-wage jobs when they come back. And finally, a safe community. We need to support our first responders. We need to surround them with tools like the emergency response unit to help take the mental health crisis calls. And we need substance abuse support and support for our homeless community with transitional housing.
Thank you. Ms. Rivera?
Affordable housing is certainly the new economic development. But in the category of affordable housing, my initiative and my questions are about, are we getting those supply into the right, for the right people? Are they going to the right occupants? Are they going to the right categories of occupational based decisions? For example, we have people asking, I'm looking for affordable housing in Santa Fe because I want to come to Santa Fe because it's too hot in my state. They're retired. They're welcome here, certainly, but is that the occupants that we want in the affordable housing? So I think while the supply is needed, as Gino mentioned, I think we also need to focus next on, are we getting those homes into the right folks? So that would be one of my top priorities. Second priority for me is all about quality of life, and under that is all about the infrastructure. Everything from the transit to the water treatment facilities. As I've mentioned, I've traveled the globe, I've come home, landed at the Santa Fe airport, and it feels like a third world country. You cannot get from the Santa Fe airport to anywhere in town. So it is striking, and granted, I've been to big cities, but you come back here and you're just crickets. I would like to see our transit improve. Not only the current transit system that we have, but probably additional transit that we need to think about. How do we get people to doctor appointments? How do we get them to the different campuses around town? How do we get them just from point A to point B? That needs to be looked at. And long term, if we're still going to be struggling 10 years from now with affordable housing, how do we get commuter transit to get our labor force to work here? And the third priority for me is certainly enforcement. Enforcement across the board. The traffic enforcement, enforcement of short-term rental codes, enforcement of basic ordinances that we have, noise ordinance, dog barking ordinances. I don't believe we have the teeth in those ordinances that needs to improve the quality of life for Santa Fe.
Thank you. Ms. Castro?
Thank you. So one thing I'm really appreciative is that a lot of us have really great ideas and that we're knocking doors and that we're all sort of focusing on the same things. Housing. One thing that I will say, it's difficult for me to tear all of these things out of our city budget not working. So that would be number one. I think the way that our city government working is really important. Staffing all of our city offices that are not only understaffed, but also not working together and very siloed. So without a good working government, it's going to be difficult for us to do almost anything. I think that performance-based budgeting is really important so that we're investing in the things that are working and that we're meeting benchmarks so that sort of things that are happening now with late budgets are not happening in the future. I think that the stability that our parents had in being able to own homes and having a safe place to work and live with good wages and good jobs is something that's really important to me. Thinking about the future of Santa Fe, I agree with many of the people on this panel that some of the housing stock isn't for all of us. And there are many programs, both federal and state, that can help us. But without getting our books in order, we are ineligible for a lot of that money. So it's sort of a chicken and egg situation. I think that generational wealth in this community is really important, and being able to keep people in their homes and being able to help them pay for the things that they need, even when they're on a fixed income, is really important. I think that using our privileges as young people who have gone out and gotten information and come back, there's so many people like myself who want to come back to this community and give back. We need to make room for them and create opportunities. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Gutierrez, I got a little confused here. You have not answered this question, correct? Please do.
I'll make it fast. I think Kathy hacked my email because we're on the same wavelength. So you guys have either heard the puppy that cries the loudest gets the milk or the squeaky wheel gets the oil. Top priority, I think it'd have to be the audit at this point. I think keeping these monies back and not performing an audit on time for the last 5 years is a black eye to our city. So that would be one of my top priorities. I may not make it move any faster, but I would be that crying little puppy every single week that I showed up at City Hall. Moving on from the audit, basic services. We are in need of basic services. We are lacking enough staff in certain departments or divisions. Councilor Garcia mentioned lifeguards. Who would have loved to be at a swimming pool in July this summer? It was the hottest summer I can remember, and we didn't have enough staff for those basic services. Expanding on that, just thinking a little outside the box, a couple splash pads somewhere would be nice. My baby's 6, and we had nowhere to take her, and the system didn't work the way it should have. Included in basic services, the cleanliness of our city, the trash cans emptied on the plaza when there's events happening, the just different basic services that we all are entitled to, and I'm going to use the word entitled to, as residents of this city. Our infrastructure is not in the greatest shape, and we all know that. We have leaking pipes, and we're so worried about water, but there's leaking pipes on the city end. We have sewer lines going and exploding from the inside out, so we need to pay attention to that. We still have connections of water that are on lead from the city side. And of course, I got the 30-second sign, so I'm going to make it faster. Safety in our own homes and in our neighborhoods. People rummaging through cars is not something that makes anybody feel comfortable. It has to be unnerving when you know somebody's went through your vehicle. Thank you.
Going back to Mr. Zamora, what areas of city-county coordination will you emphasize if elected?
I would start first with the positive working relationship. I'm 30 years working for elected officials, working with elected officials, and it comes down to person-to-person relationships. And understanding that you don't blow up a relationship over an issue when you know you're going to see each other in 2 weeks, or in a month, or in another quarter. So I would start first by working to establish those relationships with the county and establish trust and be able to work together. I have a saying, it's not that we disagree, it's how we disagree. And we may not always agree, but we can do so respectfully. And we can preserve the relationship for the next issue that's coming along. The issues we've got to think about is annexation wrapping up. That was happening when I was city attorney over 10 years ago. We were working on annexation. Affordable housing. How can we partner on affordable housing? How can we partner on infrastructure and water treatment and all of these issues? We share the community. We are partners in delivering services in Santa Fe and in the county. So first I would work on the relationships, because if we do that, we can address the serious issues that we need to on infrastructure, housing, and providing safe communities in both Santa Fe and in the county. Thank you.
Ms. Rivera.
May I ask that you repeat the question, please? I was navigating the microphone. I want to make sure I got it right.
What areas of city-county coordination will you emphasize if elected?
So, thank you. The areas that I would focus on in terms of coordination, first of all, would be overall master plan development. I think many of these things are now crossing into boundaries, and we need to have a good relationship and understanding as to what the master plan is and how it crosses those boundaries and the role that the city and the county both play. The second area would be in the area of water. The water planning, the water strategy, making sure all of the things that happen from the higher elevations down to the lower elevations are understood, communicated, coordinated, and agreed upon. I think the hardest conversations we're going to have in the future, crossing all boundaries, is going to be about the water. I think we all know that, and I think that's the best place that we can have the best open dialogue and start that dialogue sooner than later rather than after some surprise. And I think the other area I would say is more on ordinances. Not that all the ordinances need to be the same, but we understand that the county is going through the review of the short-term rental ordinances. Santa Fe has theirs, and I think at some point there probably just needs to be some perhaps comparing of notes, possibly alignment, but at least an understanding so that we know from place to place what these ordinances are and whether or not we should even have some partnership there.
Thank you. I actually have, this is interesting order. Mr. Gutierrez next. I'm sorry, I'm doing this again. Okay. Ms. Castro.
Just came to stir the pot as usual. I apologize. One of the things I'm really proud of is being part of many communities and being able to bridge people. I fortunately have already relationships and have met with county commissioners on this specific issue because I think it's a shame that our two major entities are not getting along in this particular time. I have longstanding roots in the village of Agua Fria, and I understand some of the hesitation in new annexation and what some people would call encroachment. I think that we cannot stop progress, but that we need to listen to residents and we need to listen to people about what they want in their communities and give them a voice in their own communities. I think that as some of my fellow running mates will have said, I think water is really, really important. The water treatment plant is one of our biggest issues right now and something that we need to work on collaboratively. And when we don't have a good relationship, that's going to be impossible. Ordinances that are in the city and in the county that differ, for example, for short-term rentals, cause a lot of confusion. If we are not working together, our residents are not being served the way they should. So in terms of even energy efficiency, Wi-Fi, I can go on and on about the things that we could work with the county on, and we are not because we don't have a great relationship. So one of my biggest priorities is to mend that relationship and try to bring together these two entities that are so important to so many of us.
Thank you. Mr. Gutierrez.
Thank you. City-county coordination, there's several entities that come to mind immediately. The Santa Fe Solid Waste Management Agency, the Buckman Direct Diversion, and the Regional Dispatch Center. If any of you have read the New Mexican in the last month, you've probably seen all of these mentioned for one reason or another. And we all know that it's hard for the county and the city to get along according to what we read. It's sort of disappointing, but I'm not behind the scenes, so I don't know exactly what's happening with that. I think what we need to do as a community is maybe we can get Commissioner Hansen and Mayor Weber to arm wrestle, and once they're done, and we can all we can all just start fresh from there. And what brings this to mind, something that I just said, is my son thinks he's the very best in soccer. He's a junior, and he loves the game. And there's nothing more heartwarming after the game for him to go and talk with other members from the other squad, whether it's West Las Vegas or Robertson or whoever they're playing on the field, and they hug each other and they treat each other with respect, even though they're on different teams at that moment. At the end of the day, we are all one community, and we should act like it. Thank you.
Mr. Lucero.
Well, like I said, I'm an educator. That means I know specifically that, in order to play in the sandbox, we need to get along. We have to have relationships and a shared purpose if we're to have a partnership with the county, the city and the county that works. Personally, I'm not super up on, the conflict, and I think that's good because I would be coming in trying to mend fences. That's just the nature of how I live. Even last night, I'm talking to county commissioners at an event about some of these issues, and I see solutions, right? I'm solution oriented. I want to work towards solutions. I want to work with people. I want to establish relationships so that we can move forward. Some of the things that I think we need to work on together are affordable housing. We all share this city together. And so I think we all have this vested interest to address this issue together. Water, again, is another thing that we have to share it. So how do we share it amongst the city and the county? It's one big city, well, it's one small city, really. And so we do need to be able to work together on these issues. In addition to that, I think collaboration in every area is important, and ensuring the quality of life and implementation of services to the public is paramount. And in order to do that, I think we need to have a good relationship with the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia.
Great question. And the reason I say that is because I actually have a fantastic relationship with each of our county commissioners. I have had the opportunity to work with each of them collaboratively, whether it was through SWAMA or other initiatives. So I see Commissioner Hansen here, one of my allies I see working with Santa Fe County. And so I think it's something that maybe there's some internal strife that's holding us back, but I think there's the will, there's the way, and we're getting there. And I see success happening. One of the issues we need to collaborate more on is affordable housing. Absolutely. It's a big, huge need for our community. It's not only impacting city. We've got folks that are looking for affordable housing outside of our city, and it's still not available. So that is an issue I would like to work and collaborate more with our county commission on. Water, we've got the return flow pipeline that both of us are invested in and will ultimately need to be successful to ensure we have a sustainable future for water. And then public safety. I think it's one of those when you have the idea that we are all in this together and each public safety entity is going to work to support our entire community, everybody feels safer. I understand there's jurisdiction lines that come into play, but that's where we work towards relationships. And when there is a lack of force and enforcement on one agency, another agency can help to pick up the support. An example is, I had a conversation with Governor Lujan Grisham earlier this week, and she was talking about maybe we need to bring some state police into Santa Fe to help if there's not enough support with some of our enforcement issues. And those are the collaborative efforts that we need to have with the county. Where is the county slacking? Where can the city help pick up the slack? Where is the city slacking? Where can the county help pick up the slack? Because this is all of us together. It is our community, and we need to ensure that we're working together for each other to be successful.
Thank you. I'm going back to Ms. Rivera for this question. Are you satisfied with the level of transparency from the current city administration? If not, what change would you try to make as a councilor?
First word, no. No, I'm not satisfied with the transparency especially that we've witnessed lately. And while it's extremely disappointing and concerning, I did ponder what would I do differently, what needs to happen, and I think I come back to reaching out to the community sooner than later, having more community forums, having more information available to the community, and engaging with the community on a more regular, frequent, and on ongoing basis. We should not be surprised, and I will look around the room and see the nodding heads and say, how many times have we been surprised in the last 6-7 years? It continues to happen. So I am not happy with the amount of transparency. I would like to see it better. I would like to see more transparency. I would like for it to be transparent. And I think we need to meet more. I think we need to share more. I do appreciate the New Mexican. I appreciate those forums, and I would challenge the editors and the Mexican in general and the other publications, the Santa Fe Reporter and others, to help us. We need to get the information out, and we'd like for more stories to be out about this kind of stuff rather than be killed.
Thank you.
The stories
Mr.
be killed.
Gutierrez. Oops. Oh, you fooled me with this. Okay. Ms. Castro.
Thank you so much. So, as well, I don't think that it is very transparent, and I would like to see that change. That is one of the reasons that I've chosen to run. I think my dabbling in politics through the Arts Commission showed me just how little transparency there really is, and how little input community members are starting to have in the consolidation of the city government. So I want to thank Councilor Garcia for the introduction of a bill around Office of Inspector General for the city that would actually help in creating some more transparency and some more accountability. I think the more that community members know and we have access to information, the better. The more that we can collaborate in our city government, the better. So participatory budgeting is something I will continue to say, because there's benchmarks and we can see what's working and we can see what's not, and we can say what we want in our communities. And I think it's really important also that all the people at the table hear what we have to say at these forums. So thank you again for all the forums, because these questions are helping guide our campaigns and helping guide our policy. So thank you all.
Thank you. Mr. Gutierrez.
Thank you. The first word that comes, well, the answer is no. And the first thought that comes to my mind is movida. And if some of you don't know what that means, we'll get some cliff notes later. But it's disheartening, to say the least, when the city manager will put out a statement saying that some members of the city council didn't need to be informed, therefore leading me to believe that some members were informed. I think it's important that the city manager knows that he works for us, the people of the city. I think that transparency should be on the top of the list of what they're doing, and not some backroom deals that just try and go away and keep us in the dark. So going forward, as far as transparency, I will be transparent as a city councilor, and I will try and hold my co-councilors to the same level. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lucero.
Well, I believe an engaged community is a healthy community. In order to create an engaged community, we do need transparency. If we don't have that, then we can't have constructive dialogue that has any sort of weight in terms of solving some of the solutions that we're facing. The city needs to do a better job at being transparent and being accessible to the public. Communication is key, and I don't believe you can over-communicate. And again, that's my experience as a teacher. People need knowledge. They need information to make educated decisions on any topic. As a city councilor, my job will be to share information with you and to ensure that you have all the information that you need in order to engage with city issues. The city website is an example. It's something that I feel like is not user-friendly. It's something that I think needs an overhaul. I think the city website is our main tool to communicate with the public. But to be frank, it's not something that works for me. I'm an avid user. I'm online, and I understand, how websites can and should work. And the city website just isn't working. It's not cutting it for me. The city should be more responsive. Period, point blank, and communication is key. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia.
No, absolutely not. I don't think the city's being transparent. And I'll give you, from my perspective, on the inside. Getting a call at 9 o'clock the day before a major news story is coming out, that's what it takes for me to get information. Transparency is not even come close to that. So I think you got to get the root of the cause. Mr. Lucero mentioned the website. The website was just redeveloped by the administration. Transparency went out the door. There used to be information such as employee names, salaries. That's no longer promoted on there. You try to find a city employee's email or phone number, you can't find it on there. Unfortunately, transparency has went out the door with this administration. IPRA. How many folks have tried to do an IPRA and take months to get IPRA? Unacceptable. It's taken me to where if folks want information, I now have to kind of intervene to get a police report, to get an accident report that shouldn't take 6 weeks to get. You should be able to get that in 48 hours or less. folks want information, email me. As long as it's not confidential, I'll get it out to you. Somebody asked me for the letter that was sent to the mayor, Mr. Blair. I gave it to him. I don't have any problem with that. It's a transparent government. That's what I promote. I promote good governance. I promote everybody knowing what's going on with our government. That way you can tell us where we're doing well and where we're doing wrong. I think that's where ultimately we need to be held accountable. And there are discussions in regards to what actions might need to be taken in regards to the non-sharing of information. Because at the end of the day, what would happen if you don't share information with your boss? I think that's the question everybody needs to ask. And ask themselves, and what do they expect from their employees if information wasn't shared from your employee? What are the repercussions? So I am somebody who will always promote transparency within our government.
Mr. Zamora.
I started with Tom Udall 29 years ago as an assistant attorney general, and some of the first things I learned was the Inspection of Public Records Act and the Open Meetings Act. And since then, I've developed knowledge of the Governmental Conduct Act also, which comes into play in all of this. When I was city attorney, we built an IPRA response system that functioned very well and was very timely. But it was built for 600 annual requests. That's what it was 10 years ago, 600 annual requests. Now it's over 3,000. And I think council and the governing body has a responsibility with its budget process to allow the city attorney to build a model that can respond to 3,000 requests per year. When I was city attorney, I calculated that it took almost 15 worker hours to respond to one request. It's an unfunded mandate, but we have to build a system around it to be transparent and responsive. That's just different. I travel the state training cities through the New Mexico Municipal League on the Open Meetings Act and compliance with the Open Meetings Act. The backroom deals, the vote counting, all of that under the Open Meetings Act shall not occur. The rolling quorum shall not occur. That needs to be in an open public discussion in front of the public. Decisions made in front of the public. In the Governmental Conduct Act, the offices we hold, if we're blessed to be city councilors, is a public trust, and we need to maintain that public trust. So in the end, transparency is key, and we need to improve that every day.
I want to take a minute to make a brief announcement. The League of Women Voters voter guide will be published in the New Mexican tomorrow. Please look at it. It will contain answers to different questions and also all of the candidates' websites and other information. So watch out for that. Next question. This is a two-part question. What do you believe are the 3 biggest crime issues facing Santa Fe, and what are your 3 top solutions? Nothing for 2 minutes. Mr. Gutierrez, we'll start with you.
Thank you for giving me the easy one. So, it's not talked about a lot, and there's a lot that goes on in this city at night when we're sleeping. There's no police reports in the New Mexican anymore, but when I was growing up until recently, there was police reports in the New Mexican. So we knew what was going on. You can get them now, but you gotta navigate through the hot sheets. Biggest crimes, 3 of them. I would have to say that drug use and selling of drugs is one of the biggest crime in this city. I would have to say that auto theft, to go along with drug use, is a big crime in this city. and let me think about the third one. But top solutions, three top solutions. What's happening, whether you guys know it or not, in this city, they're coming and they're stealing cars, putting a different license plate on the back of the vehicles, moving drugs to and from Albuquerque to Santa Fe. So if you own a Hyundai of some sort, they go find a license plate from a Hyundai, they replace yours, and your car's stolen, and they switch them out, the plates. I think this is, talking around, I know this has happened at night. I think the officers need to be a little more vigilant, just checking people on the streets when they're out at night. A gentleman had his vehicle stolen. It had the keys to his daughter's car in it. They took the car back with a few fentanyl pills and stole his daughter's car. Both cars left right out of Casa Solana months ago, and talking to him on the streets. So top solutions, they need to be a little more vigilant as far as that goes. I think we need to start enforcing ordinances that we have on the books. There's plenty of them. We probably don't need to start writing more, but we do need to start enforcing what's there. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Castro.
Top 3 issues with crime in the city. Political corruption. No, I'm just kidding. I'm not letting Brian take our jokes. So when I'm knocking doors, what people are saying are property crime, the noise ordinance, and vagrancy, right? Also known as the unhoused. All of these things could sort of be dealt with by a better quality of life for all of us, including wraparound services and a better wage. And I will always talk about the Food Depot's new study talking about hunger in Santa Fe and what it takes to keep people off the street and keep kids fed. And that has to do with raising our wage. So as a labor organizer, I know that if people are in good conditions and can pay their rent, they are able to be off the street and not revert to violent crime, not revert to property crime or vagrancy. Now that being said, we do need to give our law enforcement the right tools. We are not promoting our local law enforcement in Santa Fe so that we have police officers who live here and understand our communities. A lot of our officers are living out of town, and unfortunately that's because they can't afford to live here. So again, if we can afford to live here and we can afford to stay in our communities, we will have people who police our communities that understand who we are and how we are supposed to deal with some of these issues. The noise ordinance is part of this, so we need to reorganize what the priorities are for the police department. We have different layers, including ARUs and health and safety aides that can help us deal with some of the non-violent issues and deal with the violent issues with our police department, which is what they're trained to do. And again, with the vagrancy issue, we've spent a lot of money on pallet homes, on homeless shelters, and it doesn't seem to be working. So with participatory budgeting, we can start seeing what's working and help some of these wraparound services be implemented in the right way with the correct resources. In particular, I don't want to see some of these pallet homes going to individual organizations that cannot provide the services for those homes. And there's many, many other ideas that I have, but I will leave you with that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mr. Lucero.
I believe everyone has the right to feel safe in their community. Personally, I've experienced this myself 4 months ago. My neighbor called me at 1:30 in the morning. We heard noise on the roof. My neighbor gives me a call. I figure it's related since my neighbor's calling me at 1:30 in the morning. And she says, "Phil, there's a naked man on your roof." This happened to me 4 months ago. I don't have a gun. I went and got my tennis racket because that's all I have. But do I go outside? What do? My kids are asleep in the other room. I'm panicked. I'm freaked out. That's not something that I ever expected to happen, especially the fact that he's naked, right? This really shook me. We call 911. This happened at the very same time that there's a shooting at Lowe's, the very same time. So it did take them a minute to get there. So we're calling over and over. I'm talking to my neighbor, trying to figure out what this is happening up there. We do get a unit that comes by. It's the alternative response unit. They come in, they get this person down in 3 minutes flat, no problems, and this person is taken away in an ambulance. I am so thankful that the alternative response unit showed up because this could have been an altercation. I was worried that there's an altercation on my roof about to happen. Right? My kids are still asleep. They still don't know about it. Super thankful for the alternative response unit. I'm a big supporter of the alternative response unit. As a result, I was already a supporter. My wife's a social worker. I think wraparound services for mental health are certainly needed. That's a huge solution. That's going to address a lot of these issues, like vagrancy, like crime or assault. Mental health is a root cause for a lot of these things. And so I'm so thankful for the alternative response unit, not just for that, but for addressing some of the problems that we're seeing in the city today.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia.
Three of the top type of crimes I hear in our city is theft, and that's many types of theft. Burglary, catalytic converter theft, folks walking out of Target with their arms full of stuff, theft. People are stealing left and right, stealing from neighbors. I mean, we had a neighbor in our neighborhood who was just walking to random homes and just taking things like if they were going shopping. And so I think that is one issue. Drugs. We need to ensure that we're working towards creating solutions towards some of the cartels that have infiltrated our community. I mean, I've heard it from our police chief. If you folks don't know, the cartels are here in Santa Fe, and we need to do everything we can to get them out. So how do we do that? A priority is to hire more officers. How do we get more officers? Provide better incentives, such as pay. We do housing incentives, whether we're building homes for them. We go back to the old school route where we would allow them to live on schools, parks, or any other public spaces where we can provide affordable housing to them. And we become the best police force in the state. There's no reason why our capital city can't have the best police force in the state. It was mentioned the alternative response unit. That is something that we as a council really championed, and we're putting more resources behind. We've seen the success of it, and this needs to grow not only to the 2 units we're planning to put on the ground, but to 5 units. We're seeing that much demand. And we need to look at other sustainable mechanisms, look at our public safety aids. Look at that as a route to police officer employment. It's the entry-level route to hiring more officers. It's an easy way for us to get them in. They get to see how the work is done, and then we can take them the next level up to becoming a uniformed officer with our police force, and they're invested in our community. So I think that's how we grow. We grow the investment from our police force in our community, and we then begin to reap a safe community benefit.
Thank you. Mr. Zamora.
I think in campaigns, in campaign season, we have a tendency to motivate through fear. So I want to start a little bit differently on this answer and say, we live in a beautiful city with great amenities. There's a reason why we're here, whether we've been here 4 months, 400 years, or 4,000 years. We love Santa Fe and we love living here. Now, does that mean we're perfect? No, it does not. Do we have crime? Yes, we do. But I want to start by celebrating the first responders and the great job that they're doing with the tools that they have. I was blessed to do a ride-along a couple of weeks ago with a 10-year officer on the police force. And we traveled the city on parole. And I had a renewed respect for what our first responders do, responding to fraudulent use of a debit card at the grocery store, responding to a break-in at a commercial business, responding to an assault between 2 kids in an apartment complex. Our first responders and our firefighters included are doing an incredible job. We just need to give them more tools to address the things that face our community, like assaults, like property crimes, like auto theft, and unfortunately an increase in gun violence. One of the things I learned, and we need to be aware of this because we need to take care of our youth. The pandemic messed with all our heads, but it's harder on the youth. One thing I learned on this ride-along, more and more teenagers feel the need to carry guns. And not through gang associations, not through anything other than they've developed this fear and need to protect themselves. So we need to address all of the behavioral health and mental and addiction issues in our community so that we can address crime. But let's start by celebrating our first responders. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, what can the city do?
One more.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'd like to answer, but I can take everybody else's answers and just put them in mine. I'm sorry. It's
It
more,
happens at least once a night.
no, more of the same. I was fortunate to participate in the Citizens Academy for the Santa Fe Police. It was an 11-week course that I got exposure to all aspects of the Santa Fe Police Department. And I agree, they have a tough job, but we need more of them. We need more of them on the streets. The number one crime, or the crime that has increased the most, as recently reported, was arson. And it was arson because people were doing drugs underneath trailers parked in people's driveways. Rowley's Ale House also had the same fire. Casa Solana had the same fire, and it happened up the street where I live, near physical therapy on Guadalupe. People are doing drugs at night, in the middle of the night, and on people's properties. So it is a combination of the drug use, along with the vandalism and the property crime that happens in people's driveways. The issue is that there are two tales of Santa Fe. Santa Fe, is there two sides of Santa Fe? I say yes, but not the type you think. There's a Santa Fe at 3 in the morning, and there's a Santa Fe at 3 in the afternoon. I have been told by people who walk early of the things that they have seen that happens in the dark, and they said you'd be amazed. You'd be amazed at what is happening in the parks, downtown, and around the town in general, in all areas of District 1, in the middle of the night. They say what you don't see is you see vans that are showing up to these parks and showing up near the river, and what happens? People come out of the river, come out of the arroyos, they meet these vans, and then they go back down. One can only speculate that it is the drug sales. Okay? So I do agree, police funding is needed. I learned that the ARU units only work during the day. We need to expand the ARU units. I'd like to see them on Cerrillos Road, personally, in some of the buildings that we have available. And more importantly, I think we need, the sooner we can get people into safe shelters and safe spaces, I think we can keep them out of harm's way, and then we can protect them and protect our own community.
Thank you. This will be the last question. Do you have plans or ideas for the Midtown campus? And we'll start with Ms. Castro. 2 minutes.
Although it is not our district, it is something that I have to deal with pretty regularly. My business happens to be sort of in the corridor. And one of the biggest things that I noticed when I came back to Santa Fe, and really regret, is the loss of higher education. So we talk about brain drain, we talk about not having resources for our communities, yet we're not investing in resources like the College of Santa Fe, which, you know, my aunt graduated from, so many artists in town that we know. And I'm really glad that we still have St. John's, but it's not accessible to all of us. And not all of us want to go for the great books. And those of us who want other types of education have to go all the way to UNM. I was speaking a little earlier about wanting to be a music teacher. I was accepted and part of the music education program in Albuquerque, and yet I couldn't go because it was prohibitively expensive, it was difficult to do the commute, and I had other responsibilities. My business came first. And so having the opportunity for people like me to continue our education is huge. And some of those resources will be put at Midtown. I know that we need housing, and I'm really sad to see that the fee in lieu was not taken out of the Midtown campus. It could have been a really good opportunity to see what it would have been like for the rest of the city. But since there's not political will to change the fee in lieu, we do need to reevaluate, and we need to raise that fee. We hope to have in the future. That's the best way to go. Midtown is something that I will not have a personal say over once I'm on the city council, but I hope that there will be a future for other properties around the city.
Mr. Gutierrez.
So who says the city doesn't work at record speed? 2009 to 2023, Midtown. That's when the city of Santa Fe acquired it. So you can do the math real quick and know how many years it's been sitting idle, per se. The debt service on the Midtown campus isn't being paid for by what's there. There's a lot of talk of what needs to be done, and one of the answers to the New Mexican, I said, we need to start somewhere. You have to start somewhere. There's no question about that. I'll tell you a quick story about Midtown. I'm part of a nonprofit soccer for children. I'm on the board, and we were playing at Midtown in the recreation center there. And all of a sudden, the city comes and says, this building isn't able to be used for soccer anymore. It's in need of too much repair. Well, guess what? We were out on the streets looking for a place to play, and Netflix or one of the movie companies was using that. Where's our values? Do we value recreation for children, or do we value movies? I know both are integral to the city of Santa Fe, but I choose recreation over the movies, using it as a warehouse. That's it, nothing more, just for storage as a warehouse. I went to a meeting the other day at the Fort Marcy for pickleball courts. People are crazy about pickleball. I may have a body made for pickleball. I'm going to try it. Anyway, why would they not talk about pickleball courts at Midtown? Doing something to that effect. Let's get some recreation into Midtown. And as they're developing Midtown, it needs to be an example, because we all know the link overlay is in that area from St. Michael's and Cerrillos up to St. Francis. And if they ever want that area to grow in coordination with the Midtown, we need to set the example.
Thank you. Mr. Lucero.
So I ride my bike through town. I get to work on bike. I ride 30 miles a week, to get to and from work. The Midtown campus is my route. I go through the Midtown campus daily to get to work. So I've seen, over the years, I've seen it start to deteriorate. It's becoming a place right now that is just, it's not pretty. There are homeless encampments, there's vandalism, there's ugly corners in this space. I think we need to move a lot quicker in regard to what we do with this space. This space is right in the heart of town, and what we do here will have a ripple effect on the entire town. It's a big space, and with that space, I feel like we can do a lot of things. We can address all of these issues that we're talking about here tonight. Affordability being that first one. Affordable housing is paramount, that we include that in creative ways in the Midtown campus. But like Brian said too, recreation. This is a place where we can prioritize recreation as well. I used to be an athletic director. We used to actually rent Driscoll Gym there for our basketball team. And this was a facility that was falling apart at the seams to the point where, yeah, we couldn't operate in there any longer because it just wasn't up to code anymore. So we had to go searching for another gym. There are needs in this city, and that space is the space that we can really start to address all of these different needs. So what happens there will have a ripple effect throughout the city. It's a priority. We need to move quicker in regard to what we're doing here. I agree with Brian that it's just taken too long, and it's sad to see that it's deteriorating the way it is.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia.
Yes, I've got great plans about Midtown. I think it's our once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to make future generations proud of us, taking the moment at hand to say they really did something. I think back about 20 years ago when we were developing the rail yard and the challenges that went through. Well, this is our version of the rail yard. How many folks go to the rail yard and enjoy those amenities? That's what we want to happen in 10 years with the Midtown campus. Affordable housing needs to be an absolute priority. I was a sponsor of the resolution to eliminate the fee in lieu of, to show that we really care about affordable housing. It was our opportunity to utilize our assets to ensure the units are developed. Unfortunately, some of my colleagues on the council didn't feel that way. Another priority I have for that campus is workforce development housing. That way our workers don't have to leave our city. So we talked about setting a certain percentage of affordable housing units. What I'm going to work towards is developing a certain percentage that needs to be workforce housing. We've got a development plan that's guiding the development of that. So that's a change I'll be making, is ensuring that we have X amount of workforce housing. That way the rest can be market rate and the market can dictate that. set aside units for our first responders. We've got a down payment assistance program that's not necessarily working for the first responders. They want some housing, let's develop the housing for them. We've got to then look at, once we make this place beautiful, how is it going to impact the neighboring neighborhoods? I live 2 blocks away from Hopewell Man. Once Midtown is developed, that place is in dangerous territory of being gentrified. And so we're setting in place protections such as an MRA, and I'm working towards other neighborhood protections that will ensure those folks that live in that community can stay in that community as long as they want. There's folks that have lived there for generations, and I want to ensure that they can continue to live there for generations. So you ask about plans, I've got lots of plans, and I'm working towards getting those done, and I agree. We need to move quicker, and my priority is to ensure that housing is developed by the end of next year. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. We need to get it done.
Thank you. Mr. Zamora.
Before I was city attorney, in 2009, I went for a Subway sandwich. And I ran into Councilor Ron Trujillo at the Subway. And he talked to me about how the city attorney position was coming open and that I should think about it. The very first presentation I went to after that meeting was regarding Midtown and the St. Michael's corridor. That was 2009, Ron. That was 2009. A ton of planning went in. Kate Noble led a lot of that. The economic development team 10, 13, 14 years ago led a lot of that. I know it's taken a long time, but it's coming to fruition. There is a development plan that has worked through staff and come to council. Let's start construction. When you ask what do I want to do as a counselor, get construction moving. We've heard how 10 years from now we want it to be like the rail yard. Well, let's take that first step. Let's lay those first bricks. Let's get our construction trades involved so that we can do the construction we need at Midtown campus. Because those development plans have affordable housing. They have public spaces. They have art spaces, walkability, sustainability. All of these things we've talked about that we want to see for the rest of our community are in the plans for the Midtown development. So let's stop overanalyzing it, and let's make decisions, and let's do it. And let's make it an example like the rail yard that we can replicate 20 years from now somewhere else, and 30 years somewhere else. I think that completes my answer. I'd love to use more time.
Ms. Rivera.
I agree with Gino. Government is much slower than the private industry. That is something that I am just not used to. Coming from the corporate environment and the private industry, it is just excruciatingly slow. I don't know that I can change that, but I certainly agree with my sentiments here with Brian and Gino that we need to get going with this. The other thing I would mention is while we do have plans for housing, and I'm looking forward to that in that campus, I would like to see more things for families and children. If you ask the first responders who live in Rio Rancho and commute here, if you had affordable housing, would you move here, move back from Rio Rancho to Santa Fe? The answer is no. And the answer they give is, there's nothing for our kids to do. So in addition to getting housing for our workforce and our first responders, we need to plan, Santa Fe needs to plan better for things for the children to do, for the families to do. I agree, Brian, that recreation fits right into that category. But Santa Fe never really seems to talk about what are we building to keep families here. So if we're going to be attracting the right people to come and live in Santa Fe, Midtown is a good opportunity to put some of these things in place, something that we can be proud of, and we should not exclude things for our children and our families there.
Thank you. That ends the question period. Now I'd like to move on to. Thank everybody.
You're in closing argument.
Thank you for trying to keep me honest. We'll now move to the. Pardon me? 2-minute closing statements by the candidates in reverse order from their opening statements. So we'll start with the District 1 candidates, and we'll start with Mr. Zamora.
I'm the fifth of 5 children. I talked about my parents in my opening statement. For being the fifth of 5 children to survive, I'm a mediator. And that's what we need on this council. We need actually unity on this council and not division. But how do we get there? We have to listen and understand the needs of each counselor and each district so that we can be focused and we can move Santa Fe together. As a community, in my professional life, I've talked about how I advise school districts, and I talk to a lot of school boards, and I say if the school board is in disarray, then the community thinks the entire school system is in disarray, and that's unfair to the teacher in the classroom. It's the same for city government. If the governing body is in disarray, the community will believe that our entire community is in disarray. And that's a disservice to the people, our frontline workers that are performing the basic services. So, as a mediator, I want to bring us together. I want to understand the needs of every counselor, what motivates them, so that we can get all of the above done. I talked about how I've got a long career in government, and I'm proud to say that's resulted in a lot of endorsements that touch my heart because I care about these people. Folks like Mayor Debbie Jaramillo coming out and endorsing my campaign, Mayor David Koss, Speaker Brian Egolf, Councilor Lindell, and U.S. Senator Martin Heinrich. We are a campaign of experience and leadership, and I ask for your support and your vote to be your next counselor in District 1. Thank you.
Thank you. Candidate Rivera.
My cheat sheet here. So first of all, I want to thank the League of Women Voters for hosting this event tonight. And I want to set the stage here by reminding everybody that the experience of everyday life for existing residents in Santa Fe is challenging. Inflation's made it difficult to make ends meet, and affordable housing and living wages, while they may be the main factors, Santa Fe's infrastructure does not help. Our transit system is lacking, driving around town these days is risky and scary, and the conditions of the roads are poor. So we need to reprioritize transportation investment to allow residents to get to and from work, doctor's appointments in various campuses, and we should improve the commuter transit for our labor force that's commuting into Santa Fe. And while we need more police officers on the shifts, we also need to invest in technologies to help with the aggressive drivers and those that are violating the noise ordinances. Some of our older residents are reluctant to drive around town due to poor visibility. I recommend that Santa Fe look into something that Australia is already using, glow-in-the-dark highway paint. This paint emits light that it absorbs during the sunny day, and it even turns red if one is traveling in the wrong direction. It's especially effective in rural areas, and this technology has been applauded by those who support the night sky ordinances. In my travel, I have seen things that I think we can bring to Santa Fe that we can propose. Infrastructure is not the sexy topic, but it impacts our everyday experience of living here. Santa Fe needs what I call Plan I, Plan for the Infrastructure. We need to be striving for better solutions. I am committed to making a positive difference for the city of Santa Fe. I want Santa Fe to remain a safe, vibrant, wonderful place. My name's Catherine Rivera, and I respectfully ask the voters of District 1 to consider me as your top choice, November 7th.
Ms. Castro.
Thank you so much. Muchas gracias. I also want to thank Ms. Judy Williams and the League of Women Voters and everyone here and online for participating with us. Like I said, without community, we are nothing. And I also want to give this opportunity to sort of tell you about, I told you about my resume and my qualifications, but not so much about my family and why I came back to Santa Fe. And so I want to tell you about my commitment to my community and why I want to take on this role. I'm hoping to be the vision and the voice for District 1 for the future. I know that I might not be the oldest on the panel or the most politically engaged, but I do have the history. I went to school for politics because I wanted to learn what it was all about so that I can figure out those gray areas where we could be a strong community and do what we needed to do and really serve the people of Santa Fe. So in my priorities, I want to make sure that we are taking care of those folks who want to come back and be here and the folks that have been able to stay and dig their heels in and stay in our community. I want to create that workforce housing for folks who want to come back to our communities, and I want us to be able to raise our children here and be young people who have things to do, not just race around the streets because there's nothing else for us, but we have a great teen center that we just opened and we can invest in. We are doing some things right. I agree, we need to celebrate the things that we are great at, like water conservation, the things that we've led in not only the city, but in the country. When I was an organizer, we were at the top of some of the best labor organizing, some of the best wages, some of the best conditions for our workers, and we can get there again. We can be a Santa Fe for all of us, invest in our working class and our young people, and create a city that most of us can be proud to call home and that all of us can survive it. So thank you so very much. I appreciate you. I want to thank again the League of Women Voters. I want to ask for your vote, and I want to say that even if in November we are not all here again, that we're all friends, that we are all going to be in the same community, and I'm really proud to be able to work with all of you. So thank you so very much.
Thank you. Mr. Gutierrez.
Thank you. Thank you, League of Women Voters. Thank you, Santa Fe Mexican. And thank you, everybody that's in these chairs. It's nice to see a full room of people here that care and want to hear our answers. Kathy touched on something earlier, that there's nothing to do for children in this town. I said earlier I'm the father of 4. My children are so bored they look to me for entertainment. So, as I was on my way in tonight, I was thinking to myself, okay, Brian, answer all the questions. Too many times, someone will say affordable housing, and someone will, oh, I'm all for affordable housing, but did you see that sunset? So I apologize, because on the 3 top police, I didn't answer them. I faltered, but I think I did pretty well on all the rest. I'm going to apologize for not answering that question. You guys didn't hear me talk about affordable housing. We all know affordable housing is a pressing issue in this city. And I went back as far as I could into the archives, and it's been an issue since Mayor Jaffa in the early 1920s. So it's something that obviously we need to work on, and we need to work on it hard and now. I also have been involved in this community for many years. I was a volunteer firefighter and a treasurer for the Agua Fria Fire and Rescue. I was on the 2013 Charter Review Commission. On that commission, I did not vote in favor of a full-time mayor, just in case anyone was wondering. I was on the Planning Commission. I have been in the soccer field. I have done a lot of volunteer work. My resume is packed, but my resume is packed with all volunteer work. I'm a little sad that I don't have any high name endorsements to list, but nothing would make me prouder than endorsements from you people sitting here in the audience. And so I humbly ask for your vote on November 7th. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Moving on to the District 2 candidates, Mr. Lucero.
Thank you again to the League of Women Voters for hosting the Santa Fe New Mexican, and to you, Santa Fe voters, for being here. And I'd also like to thank my colleagues here on stage for this conversation. I've never run for public office before. I'm not a politician. I'm an educator. Being an educator has taught me how to work as a team and advance issues and solve problems. It also means that I have a real impact on the lives of young people, and I love that. Changing lives for the better is what I'm all about. I'm running because I'm impatient for progress and for change in our city, and I have a hunch that others are too. We talked about a range of issues here tonight, all of which are urgent, but we need to get things moving. And I'm ready to roll up my sleeves and get it done. From affordable housing to sustainability to improving quality of life, we have real issues in this city. And real leadership is more than just asking questions and going home at night. It's about finding solutions. I'm uniquely interested in the logistics of progress. Solutions to these issues not only require a clear vision, but they require actionable steps toward that vision. I'm ready to get to work. I'm proud to have the support of working people and unions like the communications workers and the building trades, former Mayor David Koss, and Representatives Linda Serrato and Cristina Ortez, and also community advocates like Allegra Love and Daniel Werwab. I'm hoping to earn your support too. You can learn more about me at ridewithphillucero.com, and if you want to continue the conversation, please reach out. Thank you all.
Thank you. Mr. Garcia.
Thank you to everybody who came out tonight. Thank you to the League, Santa Fe New Mexican, everybody here, person, virtually, anybody that might watch it after the fact. As I mentioned when we gave my opening statements, I'm somebody who is a community collaborator. That is my job by day. I do that by day. I'm a partnership development person. I can proudly say as a city councilor, I've worked effectively with every single councilor, whether it's a councilor on board now or in previous council, to pass critical legislation. I'm proud of that. That's a lot. We've passed legislation to increase the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. As I mentioned, I've worked to donate city land. I've worked to ensure that there's local preference development as we're developing property, and on and on. I mean, funding, that is how we get things done. We work together to get things done. Sure, we might disagree on things, but ultimately we're working towards progress. There are things that I don't agree with that's currently going on, like getting a late audit. So I've been a very vocal person about that. I've been talking about that for 1.5 years, that our funding is at risk. Now it's come to fruition in what's happened. I am somebody who is always going to be looking in your best interest. That's what I am there for. You are my boss. It's not the other way around. You are all my boss. So I'm sitting here asking you to take into consideration, do you feel I've been an effective city councilor? Have I brought forth your voice to City Hall? I want to ensure that that voice is heard and it continues to be heard. Your priorities are met. For example, one of the things that when we were doing the Midtown development plan, the plan that was originally proposed was 20% affordable housing on that campus, 20%. Through my advocacy, we raised it to 30, which I still think is too darn low. I was advocating for 40, but I'll take 30, it's better than 20. Those are the things that I might not agree with everybody, but I see results, and there's been positive results, and so I'm humbly asking for your vote to continue to be your city councilor for District 2.
Thank you. These forums will be webcast, will be online at the New Mexican, so please check into them in the next few days. So that does include this evening's City Council Forum. Thank you all so much for participating. Thank you all for coming. Please join me in thanking you.